Now we're going to slow it down a little bit. I'm guessing most of you folks have heard of it.
Whiplash is a film praised for its beautiful color, intense scenes, and exhilarating story. It's not just a movie about jazz drumming. It's a film that uses editing as a storytelling weapon, cutting and shaping the story of our protagonist, Andrew Neiman. Now, before I get too far into this video, I would like to add in this spoiler warning. I'm not going to talk too much about the general plot of the film, but I will be talking about some of it, so just don't say I didn't warn you. Anyway, let's quickly look at a brief synopsis of the film before diving into the rest of the video. Whiplash follows the story of Andrew Neiman, a student at Schaefer Conservatory of Music in New York City. Under the ruthless guidance of his instructor, Terrence Fletcher, Neiman pushes himself past his limits and sacrifices everything to achieve greatness. Now that I've explained a little bit about the storyline, let's talk about what makes this movie so exceptional. Now, while the film is mostly known for its story and character development, I would like to talk about the editing style. The editing is truly top-notch, and if you don't believe me, just watch this.
And the Oscar goes to...
Tom Cross, Whiplash.
That's right. In 2015, Whiplash earned the Oscar for Best Editing. But what exactly is so special about the editing, and why was it so deserving of arguably the highest award in filmmaking? I have taken the best editing techniques from the movie and divided them into 3 separate categories: color grading, sound design, and the cuts and transitions. Now let's dive into the color grading first. Perhaps the most iconic part of the film is its use of color. The film leans heavily into scenes with a warm yet somewhat sinister yellow tone, which is contrasted by an eerie, sickly green in other scenes. So what do these colors mean? Well, the yellow in the film symbolizes ambition, the pursuit of excellence, and a hunger to improve. Notice how Neiman is often bathed in golden light when he's in the practice room or at the theater. Most of the time, warm lighting is specifically associated with warm, happy feelings. But the interesting part about the use of yellow in this film is that it's not only used in scenes where Neiman is comfortable and upbeat, but also when he is stressed and scolded. This adds more depth to the story and shows that even while Neiman is harassed and berated by Fletcher, he enjoys it. He wants it because he knows that despite the abuse, Fletcher's methods are indeed pushing him to be a better drummer. The use of yellows and oranges in these scenes doesn't just represent happiness and warmth, but it also serves as almost a metaphorical fire. A fire erupted from Fletcher's impartial rage. A fire that consumes Neiman and, while motivating him throughout the story, does end up burning him and changing him into the same unfeeling monster that Fletcher is. Now let's look at the scenes with the uncanny green lighting. Providing a contrast to the yellow and orange tones, the green and blue scenes represent times in the story that Andrew feels alone or unmotivated. These scenes usually take place anytime he's away from his drum set or whenever he's feeling down. Let's look at an example of these colors in action. Here is a scene of Neiman drumming during a concert. He is confident and comfortable, and the yellow ambience emphasizes this presentation. However, here's a scene at a different concert later in the film. This scene happens right after Neiman loses Fletcher's respect, gets dropped by the band, and then finally gets in a car crash. He is tense and exhausted, and these feelings are emphasized by the editor's decision to switch to a greener lighting. You can see how, while both these scenes take place on the same physical stage, the color change governs the audience's feelings. The editor, Tom Cross, uses the switch between the warm tones and the cool tones throughout the film to subtly indicate Neiman's mental state without a single word of dialogue. It truly is a brilliant way to use visual storytelling to deepen the narrative. The second editing technique on our list is the sound design. Sound is everything in Whiplash, and the way the film plays with it is nothing short of genius. For example, let's look at the opening shot of the movie. We start out in darkness, and all we hear is drumming. This goes on for 38 seconds, but I'm gonna cut it a bit short this time. That J-cut immediately pulls us into the world of the film before we even see anything. Because we hear the film before we see it, it gives us a reasonable expectation for the rest of the movie and emphasizes how important the sound aspect will be. It is a subtle but powerful technique that makes the audience focus on the music first. Now I want to focus on the not my tempo scene.
5, 6, 7. Rushing. 5, 6, and. Dragging. 5, 6,
There aren't many interesting audio effects in this scene in particular, but I wanted to focus a bit on the rhythm. This is one of the most iconic scenes in the movie, and the editor did not shy away from it. The editing here syncs perfectly with the pacing of the scene. The cuts move with the beats in the music itself, reinforcing the film's constant rhythm. This scene is a prime example about how it's not just about what we hear, but how we hear it. And of course, there's the legendary final scene. Notice how the sound of Neiman's drum fades out during the climax. This makes us feel like we are inside Neiman's head, grasping his complete focus. This isn't just a beautiful scene. It is an editing decision that places us in the shoes of our protagonist during his most important moment. In a movie about a jazz drummer, good sound is obviously of the essence, and Tom Cross did not disappoint. The last technique to talk about is the way the editor uses cuts and transitions to drive the story along. Unlike many films, Whiplash doesn't rely on flashy transitions. There are no match cuts, no fades, no fancy effects. It is all about hard, sharp cuts that reflect Neiman's brutal, relentless state of mind. According to the editor, this was an intentional choice. In his words,
you not only have to try to cut for emotion, but you also have to keep everything in sync with the music. You know, you're very limited in terms of where you can cut.
By being deliberate about where to cut and how to cut, he mimics the rhythm of the film and brings the audience in with the characters. Then we have the inserts. The film is littered with quick, extreme close-ups of drumsticks, sheet music, sweat dripping, you name it. These inserts don't just add style to the film, they serve a purpose. They further immerse us into Neiman's world, reinforcing his dedication and hyper-focus. And let's not forget the split edits. We already talked about the J cut at the beginning of the film, but the entire film is filled with both J and L cuts, primarily in conversation, that make the moments between our characters feel much more dynamic. In a film with a very straightforward editing approach, this decision to use frequent split edits really helps the film stand out. Finally, smash cuts. There aren't many smash cuts used in the film, but when they're used well. When used, they do create a jarring effect, making the film feel like it is hitting us just as hard as Fletcher's insults hit Neiman. The way the film moves between high-energy drumming and abrupt silence enhances its intensity and further pushes the audience into Neiman's headspace. Whiplash is a masterclass in editing, using color grading, sound design, and sharp cuts to tell its story in a way that's as rigid and precise as the music it presents. Even over a decade later, its editing remains some of the best in modern cinema. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend. It truly is a spectacle worthy of your attention. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.